August 29th, 2005, Hurricane Katrina made landfall at the Louisiana-Mississippi border. In doing so, it set forth a series of events that exposed vast numbers of Americans to extraordinary suffering. Not only was Hurricane Katrina one of the most expensive natural disasters ever, but it would also prove to be one of the deadliest natural disasters to ever strike our planet. The state of New Orleans is compelled to not have this complete decimation of our state happen ever again. In order to gauge how our understanding of natural disaster mitigation and response has been enhanced and developed over the past 15 years, we have called you here today. We have our pre-Katrina Disaster Response Board, consisting of those from the finance, emergency policy, engineering, and social sector, as well as our current Disaster Response Board, consisting of the same 4 core sectors and our new ecological engineering representative. Now the formalities are out of the way. Cliff, a representative from our traditional engineering sector, take it away.
Yeah, so I think we just need to keep building up on our levees and all our old coastal protections. Like, they've served us well in the past. All we have to do is, we weren't ready for Hurricane Katrina, which is like a Category 4 hurricane. And, we had Level 3, Category 3 hurricane protection in the past with our levees, and that's about like Betsy Fine back in the day. No issues, we should just keep building our levees, make them better. We can add some pumps as well, just pump out all that water, should be no issues. Drain it into the lakes, redesign our canals maybe flood the waters elsewhere.
Yeah, we'll be right.
Well, don't you think that this is like an old way of thinking, that we need some new, more like well-rounded thoughts of engineering? I think that we need to incorporate some ecological and green infrastructure into our civil engineering aspects and other engineering aspects. We can look at rebuilding the wetlands, we can look at building the levees in a more sustainable manner, as well as sort of making them more site-specific, because like loads of the soil was eroded and pushed away because it was underestimated. I think that the old traditional ways of engineering are outdated, and that we need to come up with some new, better, more rounded options.
No, that's what we're still never
Enough. Look, Tench, honestly, this can't be financially feasible. Please, come on.
Yeah, as a financial guy, the company benefit is the most important thing I have to consider. And for the new system that you mentioned before, we have to spend much more money to build it, and we have to spend money to take care of it every year. And who can tell me when the next hurricane gonna come? Maybe 50 years, maybe 100 years. So why we waste our budget to build that uncertain thing? And on the other hand, and your system said the pumps, the cheese, the wetland, and how can we get income from that kind of thing? And do you guys all want the company get bankrupt?
I think that we need to consider other non-financial metrics in our decision making. This catastrophe, Hurricane Katrina, and other disasters like it may be avoided in the future if we take a different and more modern and ecologically based approach to our financial actions and decisions. For example, if we can look at the true value of nature and other non-financial metrics and include this in our decision-making process, we'll see a vast improvement in topics such as disaster mitigation. So, for example, the wetlands that our city lies upon, these are not only just beautiful ecosystem that provides us with fresh drinking water and clean air, they also are an almost sponge for when these natural disasters hit, and they absorb all the water and would have protected us.
So what you're saying is we should include the value of the potential destruction to what the wetlands are actually worth?
Exactly, that's definitely part of the value of the wetland system. And in future, if we did have a financial value on the wetland as an ecosystem, then maybe we wouldn't have impeded on that environment and that ecosystem in the first place, meaning that all these people wouldn't have died, the buildings wouldn't have been damaged, and the city would not have been destroyed. So the take-home point for this is that the value of nature is tangible and real, and should definitely be considered as we move forward as the development of the city continues, whether that be building infrastructure or even disaster mitigation or...
Yeah, but mangroves and wetlands don't save people. Evacuation plan does. So we know our goals are to convince people to evacuate and not delay the evacuation. Now we have 2 main roads that would take 12 hours to evacuate all the population of New Orleans. So we propose to, from 4 roads, increase and extend the highways for 6 roads. Second, a marketing campaign with ads in social media and television to educate the people about disasters, and with 3 main topics: what to do during a hurricane, what to do after a hurricane, and prevention things such as hires an insurance company for your house. It's going to be better, obviously.
But that still doesn't answer the question of, the overriding thing is that this whole thing wouldn't have happened if we had a value on nature.
Enough. Clark, talk some sense into these people. How would we go about emergency policy these days?
Yeah, I agree with the education is important, but we should direct the hurricane more individually, because every cities have different conditions, and we need to set up more institutions, concentrate on coordination to make all these departments collaborate well. And also we should do some risk management for every district, so to help the evacuation plans go well. And at the recovery stage, housing and urban development and other relevant institutions should reuse the materials from destroyed houses in order to decrease the cost. And moreover, the Department of Homeland Security and reconstructors can assess the damaged areas, whether they are practical to be rebuilt or replaced by defense structures like wetlands and mangroves. By the way, those ecological things don't need warranty. How about what do you think about?
So as an ecological engineer, I think we cannot deny the fact of the heating of the atmosphere is associated with human activities, which has been invoked to both the rise in ocean temperature and more intense hurricanes in the last decades. So in constructing New Orleans, we should take the environmental impact into our consideration. Before the levees were built, the Mississippi River converted tons of soil and silt to the coast every year. Every time when the river flooded, the wetlands strengthened and replenished. This wetland protect New Orleans against hurricane storm surges, soaking up the violent water like a sponge. But when levees were built, they kept the river from flooding. The wetlands became starved of the new soil and disappearing at an alarming rate. So the key to the New Orleans survival is to restore the wetland. One method is to letting parts of the river run wild once more. However, it could cost billions of dollars and take as long as 50 years more. But as part of ecological engineer, we definitely believe it worth in the long run.
Yeah, I think that summarizes all of our points, and that it might cost a little bit more, but
it's as straightforward as that. Saving lives and protecting the city.
At the end of the day, it cost us $2 billion in damages when the hurricane did come through, so I think this progressive way of thinking is a good one.
yeah.
And that brings our meeting to a close.
Meeting adjourned.
Well, in conclusion, I think that this new progressive way of thinking is definitely the way to go. All of the ecological designs, the environmental concerns in finance, the ecosystem services, as well as the coupling of environmental engineering as well as ecological engineering. Fantastic. And finally, Clark and his new progressive emergency policy. I definitely think it's the way to go. You're hired.
Yes! Oh, maybe you should read up on some ecosystem services. Woo!
Or some ecological infrastructure.
The mother nature.
Ecological impact.
Incorporate ecological ideas, please.